Okay, good luck from Yerushalayim Yer HaKodesh. We're still in the middle of this war. I don't know when I'm getting out soon. The travel agent has informed me that she'll let me know, meaning don't bother me. I'll get back to you. Okay, anyway, everything should be well. We're on Nun Hey. We're about 5, 6 lines down, a little more. Tan Rabbanan. Tarmim te'enim ala gregis, b'malcham sheragilim lasos metenim gregis. The other day we had the differences between a gregis, which is again it's dried out, and the te'enim. So you want to ensure that when you take off ma'isa, you're not cheating ma'isa, or you're not going in and taking too much ma'isa. So in a place where they would make a te'enim into gregis, right? In a place that they would make Tainum into Gregris, right? You're able to go you can take off Tainum al Gregris, the Makam Shiragil and Lasas Mitaina Gregris. You go use the minion method. You can take off 10 out of 100. You don't go ahead and use the volume method. V'lei Gregris al Tainum, but when you take Gregris on Tainum, even if it's a place that normally would make Tainum into Gregris, nonetheless, you can't use the minion method because again, you would be going ahead and too much. But feel the makom shiragil lasas maintain my gregus. You should not go ahead and do it because why? You should not go ahead and minimize actually of the maisa. You'll be cheating maisa, not increasing but decreasing maisa. Amamar. Going back over to maisa. Tomim te'inam ala gregus. You could take maisa the truma of te'inam ala gregus b'mak with actually maisa. The makom shiragil lasas maintain a gregus. That so only in a place where what they make te'inam into gregus. Then you could take off using the minion method. Dafka b'makom sheragilim in b'makom shein regilim, in the place where they kept tainim as tainim, they wouldn't go ahead and dry them out light. Then you would not be able to go ahead and use the minion method, right? And so hechidami, if there's a kayin over there, right? Even b'makom shein ragel. Why can't you go ahead and take it off? Go ahead and give it to the kohen right away and let him do with what he wants. So why can't you take off Tainum Agaregris if there's a kohen there? But Tanan, welcome Sheesh Kohen, Tarim Yafa, right? Even if it's not going to go ahead and be Miskayim, even Al Pishe Miskayim Ketainen, right? There's a kohen there, you give the kohen the best, and that's it. Ella, when it says over there, you should take it off using the minion method, El Pshita, the Leka, unless you know, be kain. There's no kain there. According to Resha, must be speaking, but there's no kain. Aim is safe of the Baisa. The Baisa says you don't take off Truma, you don't take off Maisa, Groigris al Tainim, if I feel b'makom shevagalasas Tainim Groigris. Even in a place where they did make Tainim Groigris, you shouldn't take off Maisa in that method. The Leka, and if it's speaking where there's no kain, be the leka kain, why shouldn't you go ahead? You want it to last. You're going to take from the miskayim, which is what? It's gregris, because they're going to preserve for a long period of time. El Pshita must be speaking, take a kain, that there is a kain over there, and therefore you don't take off the tainim on the gregris. Says Resha, the leka kain, the sefer deka kain. Says more in Achinami, the Resha, there is a kain, the sefer, the Resha, there's no kain, and the sefer, there is a kain. Right, and the sefer deka kayin. So again, so in the Resha there is no kayin, in the sefer there is a kayin. Amra papa shmamina tachkina mukmina masnisan betray time. We'll go ahead and give 2 reasons. The Resha in this case no kayin, the sefer not a kayin. V'lei mukminan betray tanoi. When there's a steer up generation of sefer, better to come up with a reasoning than to make it in machloekes tanoim in the Mishnah. So rather than make a machlekes tanoim, we're going to go ahead and say it's speaking. The Resha has no kayin, the sefer has a kayin, and we conclude with that the sugya of gregris and tainim, and we get back to the Menachos. Okay, we know Menachos they were made of flour, of course, and some of the Menachos you had to go ahead and make into matzah and some into chametz. So we spoke about the ones that are making the chametz, the shtei lechem, and the taida, and now we're going to go back to making a regular mincha. How to make a regular mincha? Now you have a problem because when you mix water in, the chances are it could become chametz, and you're allowed to go ahead and bring chametz. So today's daf is going to discuss chametz, or the isser of chametz. Says the Mishnah, Kol ha-menachos ni loishos b'poishrin. All menachos you're going to need with lukewarm water, which is more apt to make it into chametz than cold water. So therefore, even though it's more applicable, but to make it into chametz, nonetheless, use poishrin. However, mishamram, be careful shali chamsu. This is speaking before you do kmitza. So before you do kmitza, go ahead and be nullish it. Go ahead and knead it with lukewarm water, but be careful that you work the dough. You're constantly working the dough to making sure it doesn't become chametz, it doesn't ferment before the kmitza. V'michmitzu shiyareha, and if it's shirayim, in other words, you did the kmitza, that was okay, but the shirayim of that became chametz. Over beloy sase, you're over on a loy sase, and the Gemara will go ahead and bring the pasuk. The Mishnah is going to bring a pasuk to go back and speak about lukewarm water. Shenamar. This is going back not on the case we just said that the shirayim should not become chametz. It's going back on the previous din of the Mishnah that you go ahead use lukewarm water and you be careful that it does become chametz. Shenamar. Kol mincha shetakrivu Hashem lo yisei asa chametz. Any mincha that Hashem that you bring to Hashem, loisas chametz, and therefore you have to be careful when you knead with warm water that it should not become chametz. V'chayev, and if it does become chametz, then you be chayev 3 malchus. You'll be chayev al lishasa, be chayev on the kneading. You be chayev the water and the solas, v'al richasan and braiding it, right? V'al afiyasan and baking it. So you be chayiv 3 malchus if you allow it to become chametz. If you allow it to become chametz, again, this is speaking before the kmitza. This is before the kmitza. After you're going to crush it up and you do kmitza, but this is all before the kmitza. Now, we said the shirayim cannot become chametz, right? So the Mishnah dealt with the before kmitza, the lisha and the aricha and the afia. That was all done before kmitza, before they crushed it up into kmitza. Now you told me the shirayim, the part after kmitza that's left, goes to the kohen. How do you know there's a din of? The Mishnah said there's a din of chametz there as well. How do you know that? Minani mili. How do you know that? What if the shirayim become chametz that you're over on a loy sase? So Reish Lakish says Reish Lakish. The Amakra, the pasuk says loy siyafa chametz chelkom the satya isa meishoy. The pasuk says, like, do not bake chametz chelkom, the chelik of the kahanim, the satya yisami ishe kodshe kadashim, he kechatus asham, it's like kodshe kadashim, like the chatus in the asham. So it says loy sefer chelka. Now, so the chayr loy sefer chametz, you're learning it from the words loy sefer chametz, and we're learning with the word chametz. So now the Gemara is going to have a problem. I need that for another limud. Since I need it for another limud, how can I go and use it to teach me that what the shirayim? That's the isur chametz by the shirayim. So right now the hava mean that you're learning it from leisa afa chametz. Right? Says the Gemara, you're telling me that what leisa afa chametz is coming to teach me that the shirayim cannot become chametz. Homi boyle l'chidetanya. I need the pasuk leisa afa chametz come for something else. The pasuk says loy on the base leisa afa chametz. Right. Leisaf chametz. What does that mean? Ma tamid loymar. What's the issur of leisaf chametz? What's the issur? Well, why do you have to tell it to me? It already said. Again, you have 2 psukim. You have a pasuk in Vayikra. The pasuk Vayikra base says loisei asa chametz, and then have a pasuk tsav loisei afa chametz. So losa asa is loisa asa. The pasuk loisa asa that's in Vayikra. The pasuk loisa afa that's in Sav. So now you're telling me like the pasuk loisa afa chametz Sav. Read the Gemara. Why do I need that pasuk? I've like vaynemar loisa asa chametz and Pashas Vayikra base pasuk in Aleph. The fishenemar loisa asa chametz yachal lo yechayev ela achas al kulam. I might think you only chayev one thing. Maybe just for one general thing, the whole process. You won't be chayiv for the kneading alone. You won't be chayiv for the aricha, the braiding alone. You won't be chayiv for the afiyah alone. Right? I say, it's only chayiv one. That's what I might think. Right? The pasuk in Sav teaches me, now, afiyah is only one of the process of the matzah making over here. So afiyah b'chal hoisa. Afia was in the category of all part of that process. Lama yatsa. Why is it taking out of the rule? Lahakish yichidi to go ahead. Lahakish elaha, and to go ahead and make a hekesh to afia. Ma afia baking miyuchedes shehi maisa yichidi. It's an individual maisa. The chayav malav b'fnei atzma and yechayev loisase. If you bake it chametz yechayev. Afani avi, so too I will bring independently the shasa, its kneading, varichasa, and its braiding. Right, the chol maisi yichidi sheba and any other maisi yichidi lasuye to include kituf, which is smearing the top with water. So any one of these, how you will be chayev what? You be chayev zichalein chametz malchus for. If you only have pasuk loy se'aser, I'd say in the whole process you chayev once. It says loy se'aser to go ahead and take it out of the rule and teach me just like you chayev of that ma'isi yichidi of afia, you be chayev on the lisha, aricha, and the kituf and the smearing of water. So lasui kituf shu ma'isi yichidi v'chayav molem b'fnei atzma. Bottom line is we got a kasha. How can you use to tell me leisa for chametz is to teach me what? That's sharayim is nisa chametz. I needed to teach me yechayev for separate things for the afiyah, the aricha, the afiyah, and the lisha and everything yechayev all. On that, the Gemara says ano mechel kam kamina. Not like you thought leisa ofa chametz. It's from the word leisa ofa chametz chel kam. Says Rashi, fourth line down. Ano hach drosha the sharayim, right? That drasha, that shirayim, that's an issa of chametz b'shirayim, michelkom kaminam. I learned from the word michelkom, midasam michelkom l'leiseafa. When I put the word chelkom l'leiseafa chelkom, they're chelik. Who's the chelik? Is the shirayim. That's the part that goes to the kohen. The kemitza gets burnt on mizbeach. So very geschmack. Leiseafa chelkom. That shirayim leiseafa chametz. So therefore, I learned from that. Such a good limud. Maybe that's the only limud. Maybe you don't have a limud for 3 separate malchus or 4 separate malchus for the different avodas of the matzah making of the mincha, right? That you chayev for the lisha and the richa and the kituf and the afiyah. Maybe the only thing it's coming to teach me is what that you chayev for the shirayim. On that the Gemara answers in Cain. If that's the case, that it was only teaching me that. Lichtav chelkom loiseyafa. Very good. Chelkom vir chelik the shirayim loiseyafa chametz. Do not make into chametz. Mai, the order of the verb first loiseyafa chametz chelkom shmamina tarti. From that we hear 2 things. Loiseyafa chametz, and since afi is taking out of the rule, right? It's taking it out. Teach me all the other ones, and now what? And also the chelkom teach me the shirayim. Fred Gemara ve'ema afi de prat. The parapa rachmana l'chayev chada, inich l'chayev chada akula. Now you're making a big jump over here. You're telling me you chayev for afia, and you chayev separately for lisha and aricha. Maybe afia is chayev once alone, but the other 2 you chayev as one. How do you know you chayev individually? Fred the Gemara kasha one more time. The aim afia, the parapa rachmana afia, that the Torah goes ahead and takes out l'chayiv chada. You should be chayiv 1 malchus for that. Enoch and the others, the lisha, the kneading, and the aricha, and the braiding, and the katifa, the smearing of water, l'chayiv chada akula. And that the Gemara answers mishum the havidavish shahaya bechlal, that afia was in the rule of the baking process. For yatzim and aklal, it's taken out of the rule, right? Lalame to teach. It's not to teach about himself. It's to teach about the whole cloud, the whole kit and caboodle. Right. So therefore, Afi is taken out to teach me just like that's Yichidi, Yichayev, Elisha, Achidi, Yichayev, Arichel, Achidi, Yichayev, Kitov. Well, so right now, everything good. We know Shirayim shall come when the worst of Michal come, and we know the din of we know the din of chametz before the din of chametz that one is not able to go ahead and make a chametz. We don't know from let's say offer, but let's see offer chametz. Fred the Gemara of the ema leisase klal, let's say asa klal, let's say offer prat. Now just be aware, let's say asa guys is in Parshas Vayikra. Let's say offer is in Parshas Saf. It's important in this case to know the distance between them. So let's say the following: let's say asa is a cloud. Leisaf is a prat. Klal prat ein b'chal on a prat. Well, we have a rule. The klal is defined by the prat. So just like the prat is only afia, so too the issa is only afia, and not the others lisha and aricha. Afia in midiachrin aloi. So Rabbi Apotriki says, Rabbi Apotriki mishum dahavi klalu prat hamruchakim zeh mizeh. Here you have a klalu prat that are distance from each other. One's in Vayikra Beis, the other one is what? In Vayikra Vav. Right? B'chol klalu prat hamruchakim zeh mizeh ein don loisoi b'klalu prat. And anything that what is that a distance from each other, we're not going to dash in as what? As a klalu prat. Okay. So, for example, if you look at Rashi, Rashi says, Klalu prat, tishachet. Okay, that's no. Eina ella, excuse me. Meruchakim, all the way up. Meruchakim, leiseyasa is vayikra, leiseyofa is mitzav. Okay, I said it. Okay, so now Gemara is going to go ahead and bring in a case of the chatas of the kohen of the nasi. We know the nasi does that, but in the parshas Vayikra Dalid, guys, we have the kohen Mashiach Helam Dava, the nasi, and then we have the regular chatas. We in Zvachim we spent a lot of time on that, and the Gemara is going to spend the time on the nasi's carbon that it's a chatas and it's brought in the north, and we're going to go ahead and suggest that we learn it out from a kalu prat that are distance from each other, and we're going to question over here. Let's say asa is the klal, and the afia is the prat. Even though it's distance from each other, we should learn it, and therefore limit it to what afia, and not extend it to what to lisha and aricha. That's what the Gemara is about to do right now. So I'm a patriki mishum dahavi klalu prat hamachach misemizeh v'chol pratu prat hamachach misemizeh ein don esav klalu prat. Maser Ravada Barava, the Imrila Kadi. Some people say Kadi is a person, some people say it just was learned Pekinam in the base medrash. But Klalu Prat, Hamuchachim Semiseh, ain't done when I say B'Klalu Prat. How can you tell me that a Klalu Prat, that distance from each other, you're not going to learn you're not going to learn that word as a Klalu Prat? 1 second. But Tanya, we have a Brisa. It says by the Nasi. The shacharei soy b'makam asher yishchat esa oila lefnei Hashem chatas hu. You should shecht the nasi's carbon. Where should you shecht it? You should shecht it lefnei Hashem in the place where you shecht the oila lefnei Hashem. The hechen oila nishchata. Where is the nishchetes? Where is the oila nishchetes? But Safon, it's in the north. It's in the north. That says, but I think it says al yerech hamizbeach tzafayna. So too that's in the north. Avzeh b'tzafain. So too the nasi's carbon is in the north. It says the Gemara that we learned that what we learned from that we learned from the nasi's carbon. You're learning it out from the nasi. Like if I nemar, it said earlier ha chatos. That's the Vayikra Dalid, and you have Vayikra Vav. Dabe el b'nei Yisrael lema zois Torah sachatas b'makom sheyishachet oila tishachet achatas b'makom sheyishachet oila tishachet achatas. So that's in what? That's in Sav. So Halam is at Yatza. Why therefore do we take the Nasi out? This is it. This is the Nasi's in Dalid. This is in Vav. In Vav are telling us that what? The Chatas is shechted in the same place as the Oila, right? And you're telling me the Nasi is shechted in the same place as the Chatas, as the Oila. 1 second, why is the Nasi's carbon any different? Why is it taken out of the rule? Right? So why is it taken out at all? So the Kvoya Shem Leishachar I say b'tzafim psula, to teach me the halacha that if it's not any Chatas that is not geshachten in the north is possible. You know, as you might think it's a mitzvah alma. It's not a mitzvah, it's ma'akiv. That's the reason to pass it. Ella, perhaps it's coming to teach me suffering. Maybe the only carbon that needs suffering is the nasi's carbon, but not that every other carbon is possible. It's not geshachted in the north. How do you know every chatas? That's not Talmud Loimad. Therefore, you have a third pasuk. V'shachar es achatas b'makom ha'oila. So the pasuk says v'somach siyada al rosh achatas v'shachar es achatas b'makom ha'oila, and that's also in Vayikra Dalid. So we have two psukim, one in Vayikra Dalid, one in about the that's Vayikra Dalid Chav Dalid. We have one in Vav Vayikra Vav Yotches. Now we have one in Chav Tes. So we have a third pasuk to teach me that what that it's not limited to the nasi's carbon, but that any carbon that is every carbon chatas needs the north, and not just the carbon of what of the nasi. Taima. What's the reason we don't say that what only the nasi's carbon, right? Is because it says the makam asher v'shachas achatas makam shech tishloila the kasher achmana v'shachas achatas halav hachi without that third pasuk v'shachas achatas makam oila. Have I mean I would have said that what I would have said. Shizet toyin soften the ain achat toyin soften that the only carbon that needs to soften within us is carbon. My timer. What's the reason? La mishum to have a cloud prat. It's a cloud prat. We have a cloud. The makam asher tishcha oila tishachet achatas. That's a cloud, right? And then the pasuk says v'shachet es achatas b'makam oila. It's one of the nasi, and the nasi is the prat, and they are one's in Vayikra and one's in Tzav. So you see that even though they're distant from each other, you would be provided over here that the prat, the nasi, came before the cloud, right? In Vayikra, it's the prat, the nasi, and in the Tzav, it's the cloud. But nonetheless, we want to say that they're distance from each other, and we're learning it out. That you be limited. If without the third pasuk, you'd say the only carbon that needs the north is what is the chatas of the nasi, only because of a klal prat. Despite the fact the klal prat is distance from each other. So who are then going back to our kasha? Loisi asa, loisi afer, loisi what is asiya? What is chayv chametz? Only would be on the afiyah, but not on the other processes, the lisha and the aricha. That's the most kasha. V'alfagad meruchachim sem said, don't loisi klal prat. So again, but be aware, we're going to ask the parents right now, this isn't a klal prat, it's a prat klal, because the nasi came first in Vayikra Dalid. Says the Gemara, Maskul Ravashi, hi klal prat who? It's not a klal prat. Prat klal who? The pasuk of the nasi is in Vayikra, and the pasuk of Asher Tishachet is what? Is in Tzav. V'nasa klal, what's our rule? Once you have the prat and comes afterwards, the klal comes along, and it's Meisav ala prat, and it adds on to the prat of the nasi. It's Rabbi all chatos that they need the north. Ella, the Tana who asked, Ayena Ella, should maybe this needs suffering, but nothing else needs suffering, and therefore you needed a third pasuk. Fregamar Akasha. If you have it's a prat klal, and therefore I know what? I know north for everything. So then I don't need a third pasuk. That third pasuk again, a havamina was what that only the nasi needs the north. And now you're telling me there's no havamina. Why? Because it's a prat klal, and the klal is meisif. So what's that third pasuk? The samachas yodei al roish achatas b'shachar zachat v'makam oila. What's that coming to teach me? But the elatana, his kasha was oisai. It's the pasuk says b'shachar oisai kokashale, right? V'hachi kamar oyena ela shezet tayin safin vein achet tayin safin mishum dekasar achmanu v'shachar oisai. It's yeshech it b'makam asher yishchel sa'oila. It's mashma dafka oisai it. So it's not from the klal prat, it's from mat and the oisai. Therefore, I need a third pasuk, right? Therefore, I need that third pasuk to go ahead and teach me what? To teach me that it's going to be extended to every other chatos, not limited to the nas. Gemara of a hashta and afkalam v'shachar chatos, right? Oisoi lemute mai. So what does the oisoi come from mayit? Since I have that third pasuk, it says Gemara lemute nachshain v'sachir oiv pesach simin. The oisoi b'tzafain dafka what the chatos that comes on a chet is brought b'tzafin. Vein sir nachshain, the sir of nachshain, which was unique. We saw as a rasha. We saw the other day. It was a rasha that it was a chatos that was brought for no reason. There was no sin involved. That does not need. The ain't say no. I saw only a chatas is one for a sin needs the north, but the seir of Nachshain, which was a chatas, was not born in the tzafin. Salkadet Ramin and Choyl vis Rabbi Lein Smicha. Since we're going to have a reboy, which we're going to see tomorrow, Lein Smicha. The Rabbi Nami Lein Tzafin Kamashmon Isoi Dafka chatas that's born on a chet needs tzafin, but not on a chatas of Nachshain, which was born as an edava. I wish you all good.